Apparently, TJ Maxx has been using some awfully shicey business practices, and our girl Laura Von V, I see you, is going to be telling us about that. So let's get into it.
Friends, and welcome back to my series where we look for quality clothing within a brand. Today, we are focusing on TJ Maxx. This is a highly requested video, and I would also say my most ambitious video yet. There is so much controversy right now going on around TJ Maxx. You know, so much chatter about how these things are manufactured and made and what brands are actually under the TJ Maxx label. So today's goal is to uncover some of the possible business practices of TJ Maxx, and most importantly, see if you can find affordable, quality-driven deals. To really understand TJ Maxx, we have to go all the way
Let me just say, I really like her blazer.
back to 1919, when two brothers, Max and Morris Fehlberg, started a wholesale business selling hosiery and underwear to department stores. Just 10 years later, they opened their own retail chain, Bell Shops, which eventually became known as Zayre. By the 1960s and 70s, Zayre was one of the many discount department stores riding the wave of post-war retail expansion. But like a lot of those chains, Zayre started to lose ground as shopping trends shifted. In 1976, Zayre launched TJ Maxx, an off-price clothing store aimed at selling brand name merchandise at lower prices. They brought in Bernard Camerata.
TJ Maxx is such a future-forward name for a company that's that old. Like, that name still holds perfectly. TJ Maxx. It's almost a timeless name. Like, it sounds like a modern
Who
name.
had previously worked for Marshalls to run it. Unlike Zayre's regular stores, TJ Maxx had a different strategy. They sourced excess inventory, canceled department store orders, manufacturer overruns, and sold them at a discount. It was less about curated shopping and more about the hunt. This business model was such a success that in 1988, Zayre sold off its original namesake stores and changed its corporate identity to the TJX companies.
It's really sad that, like, a simple idea that makes sense like that isn't just doable today. Like, you can't go buy or rent a department store for $100 a month, start selling your clothes out of it, and have people who aren't so invested in Amazon, the internet, and online shopping, and who don't even go out, that walk by your store, having enough of them come in to buy stuff from you. It's such a simple principle of old business that I'm so sad I was never able to be a part of. And the only memories I have are of the malls that have been shut down now, you know, when people actually walked into stores and bought stuff. And it was a different experience. It was for a different reason than people going to the stores now.
In 1995, TJX
stop
acquired
you,
Marshalls,
stop you.
basically merging with its closest competitor. They didn't consolidate though. TJ Maxx and Marshalls continue to operate side by side, often in the same plaza, with near identical inventory and slightly different branding. From there, TJX grew internationally. TK Maxx launched in Europe, Winners in Canada, and they added Home Goods and Sierra to the mix as well. Today, TJX operates over 4,800 stores worldwide, and it's the largest off-price retailer on the planet. To make this video even remotely possible, I am only going to be focusing on one section of the store, only clothing, and pretty much tops and dresses. Otherwise, we would be here literally all day long. But the most important thing that I'm trying to distinguish in this video is, did these items originate from a specific retailer, or were they manufactured by some private labeling company, by TJ Maxx themselves? What is the origin of this product? Was this item originally priced and sold for $49 and I am now getting it for $16? Or was it manufactured with the intention of always being priced at that $16 mark? That is where it's going to get complicated though, but we do have some sleuthing skills up our sleeves that will enable us to do this. Let's start with the source. When you're an American company and you manufacture clothing, you have two options. You can either put your business name on the tag, typically it's on the care tag, or you can register an RN number. Most companies opt for RN numbers because it's shorter to place and also isn't as confusing on the tag. RN stands for Registered Identification Number. It's issued by the Federal Trade Commission to businesses that manufacture, import, distribute, or sell textile, wool, or fur products in the US. And again, I want to make this clear, this is only in the United States, so if you're shopping at Winners in Canada, for instance, it could look totally different on the tag. Can I just say real quick, sometimes I am in absolute awe of the fact that like just 6 months ago, all I was doing was vlogging on this channel, and now I have somehow found my way into these like super deep dives into topics. And that's actually why I want to thank today's sponsor, because they are the only way that I could get here, and that's Skillshare. Watch TJ Maxx and look at some RN numbers. Our very first victim is Republic Clothing, RN 93178. They also own Magashoni and Jane and Mercer. Jane and Mercer's website sells a ton of brands on markdown. Philosophy, Ellie Tahari. Most of these brands are mysteriously available at TJ Maxx. Everything that is on Jane and Mercer's website is already marked down. So they clearly have the exact same business model as TJ Maxx. Everything starts at a said price, and then we have a discount price. Next, we have Green Envelope, which is linked to Newport Apparel Corp. This has no shoppable website, just a wholesale website that feels like it was literally built in 2010. Max Studio, our first brand that was made by an actual designer, Leon Max. However, you can't actually buy anything from Max Studio's website. It just constantly keeps trying to load and nothing comes up. And yeah, it seems like it's a defunct website. But if you go to their...
So immediately it seems like they've got a bunch of shell corporations that they're also selling items out of. but are created with the intention of getting them to TJ Maxx. Show corporations who probably source their stuff from China, get it there, and then give it to TJ Maxx. That's what I'm thinking from what she's showed us so far.
Instagram page. The Instagram page then leads you to Amazon. So it's pretty clear that this business model is not like a shoppable website. It's more of a private labeling or white labeling. And if you dig deep enough, Mac Studio is primarily sold at TJ Maxx and Nordstrom Rack.
Right.
So both off-price retailers. I finally, after probably about 10 to 15 items, stumbled across an Aerie t-shirt. This one you actually could find originally for sale at Aerie, and now it is at a discount price. So that's one item. Okay, this is where the plot thickens. Things are gonna start to get questionable. We have a joie dress. The RN leads us to Major LLC. Okay, so Major is a dead end, but Joie as a company is all over the place. However, Joie went private equity in 2021, along with Current Elliott and Equipment. Now, the retail full price tags of Joie look and feel very different. This is most likely, in my opinion, a company giving the license option for discount stores. But don't worry, we're gonna dive into that quite a bit more later in the video. Next, we have an Anne Klein top. RN leads us to Casper Group. Casper owns a handful of legacy brands, including the Nine West and Le Suit, but this one's really hard to trace back if it came from Macy's or actual Anne Klein website. The plot thickens even more. This time we have another Joie item, but the RN number links to Newton Buying Corporation. Let's dig in and find out who Newton Buying Corporation is. Newton Buying Corp is a company that operates under the TJX umbrella, primarily known for its involvement in buying and distribution of merchandise for retail
red flag name.
Chains like TJMAXX and Marshalls. It is a key part of the Marmaxx Group, which also includes Home Goods and Sierra Trading Posts. So for legal reasons, this could be one of three things. It's a made-for TJMAXX version. Think inspired by Joie. They're manufacturing something that is meant to mimic or look like the quality of Joie, but it's not the same. And it's produced under the TJX Corporation. Or the brand is licensing out its name, like we covered before. Or it's private labeling dressed up in familiar branding. Most likely it's private labeling. That RN number should probably be committed to memory. It is 75343. Moving right along to RN 128653 on a Calypso St. Barth top. Now, over the years, I have acquired a lot of Calypso St. Barth tops. Most notably, they're pink labels, not white like this one, and they are really good quality. Especially most notably before they went private equity. I swear there is a reoccurring theme on my channel with private equity. So the RN traces us to Weaver Apparel LLC, and Weaver Apparel's website, no shocker here, advertises their relationship with TJ Maxx on the actual website. Regular Calypso St. Barth sells for around $200 to $300, and even post going private equity is still considered really good quality. So you are not getting a Calypso St. Barth top that was manufactured to be sold on the website. You are getting a Calypso St. Barth top that was manufactured to be sold at TJ Maxx. In a not so shocking turn of events, we have found another Weaver Apparel Group RN number under.
So I'm guessing at this point, it's a mixture of the both, kind of like she said at the beginning. It's a mixture of both. They have one on one end, their own little shell companies where they get some stuff imported to stock the shelves that they know people like, where they can experiment with clothing that they're creating and what people are buying the most. And they also do have discount bulk items that they're getting, which is a great idea and not scammy at all, honestly, because it's a major diversification of your sources. Because if China ever runs out, then you just have the discount stuff. Or if you can no longer get stuff from China, you just have the discount stuff, which they're probably doing right now with the tariffs going on. And if the discount stuff is no longer available, then you can just start importing from your own companies that are importing from other companies. It's really smart.
The brand Bailey 44. And guess what route Bailey 44 took? Private equity. A full line Bailey 44 top does exist, but based on the evidence that I can see, this top was not manufactured for the actual brand. I am getting exhausted already, but we must prevail. Next up, we have RN number 54163. This is DKNY Jeans. They are owned by G3 Apparel Group. G3 Apparel Group is a mega conglomerate of multiple brands. Some they own in its entirety and some they license out. This is where the fashion industry can get absolutely fascinating, and just realizing how much of these legacy brands that we're all trained to know and love have been bought up by different companies over the years, and we're going to dive so much more into this later. But brands. G3 Apparel Group owns brands like TKNY, Karl Lagerfeld, GH Base, Andrew Mark, Sonia Rykel, and brands that they own licensing to, enabling them to design, manufacture, and distribute products under their names. Some of these licenses include Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger, Levi's, Dockers, Vince Camuto, Kenneth Cole, Cole Haan, and Guess. So knowing that they own so many of these brands, it's a mixed bag. Are they manufacturing these specifically for?
It's crazy too, not just in this industry. How many companies have a monopoly and own so many different companies in an industry? Like, we still live in the age of the monopoly. We absolutely do. And that's outside of tech. Tech's the easy one to point at, laugh at, and make fun of right now. But like Land Rover and its parent company, Land Rover Jaguar and its parent company, the car companies, tech, lots of the fashion industry. So many industries are completely ran by these major corporations, these major monopolies. It's just crazy once you actually look up, like, oh dang, where's this from? You know, oh, it's owned by these people. I thought it was made by them, but actually it's owned by them, and this is owned by them, and this is owned by them. Like, go through your house and check to see how many items you have owned by the same company. I was surprised to see that Colgate was owned by PNC. Is it PC? PwC. The accounting firm. They own Colgate. It was just a shock. Just a shock.
Or TJMAXX or off-price discount stores? Possibly. But there also is a good chance that these labels have been sold in like a Macy's or a JCPenney's or maybe even Dillard's. But I think the standout moment in this is realizing how many of the companies G3 Apparel owns and how many of those brands you can find in discount stores. The most common RN number you can find in TJMAXX, though, over and over and over again on so many different brands, is RN 75343. From Tommy Bahama to Jones New York to Calypso St. Barth, Nicole Miller, Rachel Zoe, Joie, Sigrid Olsen, Laura Ashley, Tahari, and the list just keeps going. So when you see that RN number, you're not just looking at overstock, you're most likely looking at merchandise created just for TJMAXX, often with lower production standards than the original brand. I really hope you're sticking with me through all this because we're about to get into the nitty-gritty of this. So what does this all mean? Does this make TJMAXX a liar? A bad company? Maybe a little morally gray, if you will? Yes. But also no. But also yes. Yes, definitely. But also like kind of sort of no. Well, for starters, TJMAXX does still sell discounted items from retail stores, like this Lily Pulitzer sweater. It's flawed and not in the best shape, but you can buy it. They also have a few decent deals, like this dress that was originally sold on Farfetch and My Teresa for $500, or this Johnny Was dress that originally retailed for $225. It's just buried in the store among all of the made-for discount store items. Hence, I guess the whole concept of a treasure hunt. Where we get into the morally gray area, so many designer brands have evolved over the years and sold to licensing agreements and gone the route of private equity. And we've lost a lot of the original concept of the brands that we know and love. They just point blank are not owned by the same companies anymore, and they are not manufactured under the same standards that we grew up with. But to play devil's advocate here, the fashion industry is a brutal place. One bad season can bankrupt a brand easily. And if one bad season can bankrupt a brand, private equity can easily swoop in and either help leverage the company and save them, or buy them out completely, and then you have a recognizable brand that is no longer the standards that you knew and remembered growing up. And these brands oftentimes are cutting corners and manufacturing items built for discount stores to leverage the brand identity and help persuade the customer to buy the item on brand recognition alone, with the tag being just slightly different. And it's definitely worth noting, off-price discount stores aren't anything new. From mill stores of the mid-1900s to surplus stores to now big box discount stores. It's a huge business model that does not look like it's going away anytime soon. So private labeling and white labeling is very common in the fashion industry. But as long as you know the facts, do you personally feel like you've been taken for a ride? I would argue that the Joie dress I tried on was a significant difference in quality from what you could get from the higher end Joie brand. It was the definition of fast fashion. Same with this Rachel Zoe top. But this Calypso St. Barth top was actually something I would be okay with, but the cut of it didn't really feel like my style, and that's something that I noticed.
When it comes to that, like, while you're clothes shopping, if your priority is high quality cloth or whatever, if it's high quality clothing, then you won't buy something that's low quality just because it's a specific brand. You won't trust a brand and buy something from a brand and expect it to be high quality just because it's that brand, unless you're going to pay a premium, and you know for a fact it's the same company doing things in the same way and you have an attachment to that company. You're going to buy the clothes based off of quality. And you're very limited in doing that if you're buying based off brand, which I never do. I don't think people should do. Because unless a company has loyalty to you, or unless I'm getting paid to sponsor or advertise for a company, then there's no reason for me to specifically really rep one specific clothing company. Unless, like, my friend. I have a friend, his name... Oh, I can't say that. But I have a friend, he has a clothing company. I support that clothing company, right? But I don't see his stuff, not yet, in these stores, so it's not like I have to have a dilemma. Oh man, I want to buy this, but if I want a specific kind of clothing, I'm going to check the quality before I buy it to see whether or not it's worth buying. And everybody can tell what is and isn't fast fashion. You can tell by picking up and touching a piece of clothing whether or not that thing's going to fall apart in a week.
time and time again. More mature brands, even at deep discounts, still have decent manufacturing, while trendier items are less thought out and lack the quality I would generally look for. And it's worth noting, these bigger businesses working with manufacturers for the long term actually have a leg up in the manufacturing process. They have the upper hand at pricing strategies because they're ordering in bulk, and oftentimes can build a better, stronger relationship with these manufacturers, which in the long term can help with discounted prices for discount stores. So my final thoughts and hot takes, because you know I always have some, TJ Maxx is a morally gray area. It's just important to understand the landscape of how the company works. Most legacy brands that we grew up with have so many different layers to them now. They're licensing out their labels, which honestly isn't inherently bad. And I want to tie back to that G3 apparel that I talked about. The Levi's is a really good example. They have the license to manufacture denim jackets for Levi's. They have been manufacturing specifically bomber jackets for decades. So they have really good relationships with these manufacturing companies. I honestly don't know if you could look at it as a bad thing. I think it's just understanding the messy business side of the fashion industry. It always ties me back to diffusion lines too. Messy. I've talked about diffusion lines so much on my channel, but like I loved the fact that in the early 90s and 2000s, diffusion brands were such a big thing, and I had access at the price point that I could afford to brands and designs that I coveted, but you know, the designer was completely out of reach for me. So it raises the question, is the person who can afford a $300 pair of Levi's the only one that should be able to purchase that brand? It is so complicated because that $300 pair of jeans becomes a novelty. Those jeans are not actually paying for the lights to stay on.
You can't be right? Levi's jeans. I'm pretty sure Levi's was the original creator of the jean. If not, I don't know, but the original story was like men needed clothing that didn't break down while they were working hard in the mines. And somebody took canvas and actually made it into a pair of pants. Okay, some women's jeans for $59, $268 there. But shop all men's jeans. Let's see what the average price is. $300? What are you talking about, woman? What are you talking about? I don't see anything for $300. The most expensive is $248 here. Okay, $295 there. Don't know why you'd be buying this, but yeah, not $300.
It's those $28 sales that are actually leading the brand and keeping them afloat. And it's often supported by fast fashion and, you know, labor and cost cutting, manufacturing and all those kind of things. So what can you do as a consumer? Well, first off, I think knowledge is power. Understanding how the system works can help you make better informed decisions. And also, even more importantly, help you make decisions that align with your values. If you want unique, good quality clothing designed by a small team of people, go with independent brands, not with big corporations that are engineering clothes to squeeze every last penny out of
and you have to go with independent brands where people are actually designing the stuff to design it. You get what I'm saying? I mean, anybody can hop on Teespring or hop on or call up a Chinese manufacturer and get some shirts printed and sent over. If you're going to go for independent brands and you want to support them, get the good stuff, you know. Buy people who are personally sourcing or creating their clothes. People who really have a passion for what they're doing. Not saying that it's wrong to not have a passion, but there's a different
intention as much as you can, because it really truly matters and does have an impact. But I also understand that life is hard right now. Budgets are very tight. If shopping at TJ Maxx is the difference between your own sanity and being able
Nobody's going to stop shopping at TJ Maxx because they're in a morally gray area in terms of where they source their clothing at. Again, you should test every piece of clothing to see whether or not it's of an acceptable quality to you before you spend money on it. And you aren't ordering stuff offline with TJ Maxx. You're going in the store, you're touching it, you're trying it on. And, you can do little stress tests on the buttons. If that thing feels like it's about to give already, you don't buy the shirt.
Entire family, there is no shame in that. You know what to look for and how to shop. It can still be good quality clothing at an affordable price. In fact, I would easily say between Kohl's and TJ Maxx wins. Like that Calypso St. Barth top alone was enough for me to be like, yeah, this is good. Also, like the Jones New York linen tops, those are good too. I hope that clears up the mystery of TJ Maxx. Honestly, this video was so exhausting to put together. I think I'm gonna go thrifting for like an entire...
Good job, girl. Shout out to Laura. She really did do a great job. Didn't know anything about that. Didn't even think about it at all. Didn't know that private equity had such a large hand in the fashion business. I mean, they're just numbers guys. So if the alpha's there and the return on investment makes sense, they're going to make the investment. So them getting into the fashion game makes complete sense. I don't think it's a bad thing though. I don't think they're scamming people. I think that they just have a business. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the reason you go to TJ Maxx is for the prices. And if you're still getting those prices, you're not going there for like a specific brand. If you're still getting those prices while you're at the store, then you've got what you came for. So their biggest value add is still there, in my opinion.